Blog Talk Radio.
Franchise interviews. From Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia, you're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews. Welcome to Franchise Interviews, an up-close, behind-the-scenes look at franchising and entrepreneurship. Listen to interviews with franchisers, franchisees, franchise authors, franchise experts, and attorneys. And now, welcome your host, Marty McDermott, and Franchise Interviews.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to a very special edition of Franchise Interviews, where for over 17 years now, we've been asking the entrepreneurs one-on-one. I'm your host, Marty McDermott. I'm the president of Franchise Interviews, and we have a great show. We're meeting with Lukas Krause, the CEO of SkyRun Vacation Rentals, a leading vacation rental management company that's been around for over 20 years, controlling the bookings of over 1,400 properties across 15 states. We're going to talk to Lukas about that in just a moment on Franchise Interviews. So stick around because we have a great show.
Franchise Teacher.
Would you like to know how to franchise your concept or grow your franchise business?
Meet the experts at Franchise Teacher.
The goal of Franchise Teacher is to teach, coach, consult, and advise. The team of experts at Franchise Teacher will evaluate your business model and present you with a winning business strategy.
Franchise Teacher will help you decide whether or not your concept works and if it's franchisable. Franchise Teacher is proud to have over 30 years of experience in franchising as both franchisees and franchisors.
Franchise Teacher are developers of over a dozen franchise systems, which include brick and mortar as well as home-based concepts of nearly 3,000 combined franchise locations.
Whether you need to add more units or get more customers, Franchise Teacher can help. We will teach.
Franchise Teacher will help you learn our proven system.
Coach.
Franchise Teacher will help you provide a game plan to succeed.
Consult.
Franchise Teacher will make sure you stay on track.
And advise.
Franchise Teacher will help you learn from our over 30 years of experience in franchising as both franchisees and franchisors. Take advantage of our free, no-obligation phone consultation. Simply go to franchiseteacher.com or call us at 561-385-3032.
That's franchiseteacher.com or call us at 561-385-3032.
Hi, this is Connie McDermott, Administrative Assistant for Franchise Interviews, and you are listening to Franchise Interviews.
Franchise Interviews. From Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia, you're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to a very special edition of Franchise Interviews, where for over 17 years now, we've been asking the entrepreneurs one-on-one. I'm your host, Marty McDermott. I'm the president of Franchise Interviews, and as we were saying earlier, we have a great show. We're meeting with Lukas Krause, the CEO of SkyRun Vacation Rentals, a leading vacation rental management company that's been around for over 20 years, controlling the bookings of over 1,400 properties across 15 states. Hi, Lukas. How are you? Welcome to the show.
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
This is my pleasure, Lukas. We always like to ask our guests, where are you calling from this morning, Lukas?
I'm calling from Park City, Utah.
Oh, nice. Okay. I'm in Easton, Pennsylvania, so we're kind of on the other side of the country, Lukas, but I imagine it's hot there, isn't it?
Oh, it's cold. We got a little cold snap. It was below freezing.
Did you really?
Night, so,
is that right?
So,
oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah,
well, good for you.
We're also in 7,000 feet of elevation,
okay,
so it's a little cooler up here.
That's a good point, right? That's fantastic. I was reviewing your background and your experience, Lukas, and I always think it's important for aspiring franchisee to look towards like the leadership, and you have tremendous background because you have experience in franchising, you have experience in this particular industry. I thought maybe you could talk a little bit about what you were doing before joining SkyRun Vacation Rentals.
Yeah, I think it's great. You're right. I mean, as you look at franchising, it's a marriage in a lot of ways, who you're partnering with in the evolution. I'll say, I have somewhat of an eclectic set of experiences. Started out in, the restaurant space and franchising. Even did as you probably saw in the background, a little brief career I'll say detour, and played a little professional baseball in the New York Mets organization.
Yeah, I saw that. That's very impressive.
It's a much longer story, but she was chasing a dream. But what's funny is, I'd helped thousands of franchisees wear every hat with supporting franchisees at Quiznos. But I think what really helped shape me was in 2008 when I started my own business. And I taught many folks on how to start a business, but you don't fully appreciate the emotional toll and how your identity and ego is wrapped up into it. And so I built it. And once I built that business in 2008 and got out of the day-to-day and made a lot of the mistakes that I said not to make, you learn.
Right.
I re-entered a franchising in the long-term property management space and helped build a company to be the largest single-family property management company in the country. Yeah. And I think I was just far better at really appreciating and supporting franchisees because of that entrepreneurial experience in the middle of my career. Right. And so we got that business sold and, kind of got into this space just a little over 3 years ago. And it's a very fragmented industry, unsophisticated competitive set. And what I've loved is we've been able to bring systems, processes, and really a level of sophistication that has allowed our franchisees to excel. So it's been a long, I'll say, meandering journey career-wise. Yeah. And all those experiences helped kind of serve me to really help support, our entrepreneurs that join our franchise.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, it just seemed like it was a perfect match, Lucas. And eventually, then becoming the CEO of SkyRun Vacation Rentals. Maybe we could talk a little bit about if someone's not familiar with the brand. I mean, how do you describe SkyRun Vacation Rentals to someone you might be just meeting for the first time?
So I explain because everyone thinks, do you compete with Airbnb or Vrbo?
Right.
and those are our marketing partners. Airbnb and Vrbo are kind of like Google. They're the search engine for the listings. And so we partner with them. What we provide is really service for individuals who have that second home and need to generate income on that home, but don't want to deal with the headaches that it requires to maintain, to find guests, to handle the cleaning, all the logistics around having that vacation rental. And so our franchisees provide a turnkey solution for those individuals who have that second home so that they can own the home, not the headaches that come with it.
Right. And what's interesting, I mean, is how long SkyRun Vacation Rentals has been doing this. I mean, I saw it, like I've mentioned in the introduction. I mean, it's over 20 years now. I mean, they were really, if you think about it, they're kind of like pioneers, right? Before all those other companies that you mentioned, whether it's Airbnb or Vrbo.
Yes. It's funny. It was kind of born out of necessity. So Barry Cox and Steve Falk. Barry was our co-founder who was IBM executive, and Steve and Barry had these dreams of being ski bums in their 40s. And they had a vacation rental, but they couldn't find someone good to manage it. And so Barry built technology and started to manage his own home. And then, others in the neighborhood asked for help and realized that there was a business here. And so technology's kind of been in the forefront of this. We were the first to integrate into Airbnb, property manager to integrate directly into Airbnb and Vrbo. And so, I'd say innovation has really been a big part of who we are. And as our space has kind of grown, there's been a lot of investment. And so that evolution has, we've tried to stay on the forefront, not only investing, but also partnering with great technology partners.
Yeah, I think so too, Lucas. And it's interesting. So why do you think, or you've been able to answer this question, why are more travelers looking at vacation rentals versus going to hotels for their lodging needs? I mean, when I was a kid, I mean, we went on vacation. I mean, my parents would only consider staying in a motel or hotel or something like that. But today, I mean, it's all changed, hasn't it? So, I mean, why are travelers looking more at vacation rentals today?
So I'm sorry, you took me down. I think of those I had that same experience growing up.
You did.
I think of those road trips, staying in the motels.
Yeah, that's right.
Growing up. But it's really interesting. I think part of this is kind of the sharing economy as things have changed. But COVID really helped, I'd say, elevate this into the conscience of our industry, because most people were, whether business travel or others, they would just choose hotels. But the older generation saw this as a safer alternative. And people tried this and realized it was a great experience, right? Having a kitchen, having the convenience of having, if you have a big family, having everyone in the same home. And if you're staying longer, which now with some of the more mobile, I'd say work environments where people have some flexibility, you're seeing people stay longer. So they may go for a place for 10 days, 2 weeks, work a couple of days, but also get to enjoy that area. So it lends itself, not only from an economic standpoint, because rather than getting 3 hotel rooms, it's a little more compelling, but the convenience of having the kitchen and having some of those creature comforts that most people are used to. So COVID's really been a big catalyst in growing the industry.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And, I'm thinking about it because, I haven't had a lot of, really franchises in your industry. This is like our 800th podcast, and of course, food dominates, franchising. But I mean, so how's franchising making the vacation rental market more accessible, Lukas?
Oh, I think we're in the early stages of it. There are a couple of brands that are starting to emerge. But this industry lends itself very well to franchising because it is a very local, boots on the ground, and it is personalized service. So you need that local touch support. But the value what a franchise, aggregated buying power, data, because it's getting more sophisticated for pricing, because, these are now like pricing equivalent to what happens for airlines. And the ability to be part of something bigger and have that data, our franchisees have a huge advantage over that, individual, I'll say mom and pop, I don't mean it in a negative connotation, but they just don't have access to the data, the buying power, and a network of peers that can really help them grow. So I think our industry is really ripe for franchising, and you're starting to see it become a bigger strategy for folks to grow.
That's interesting. What are some of the growing hurdles that property owners are facing, Lukas, in the vacation rental market? I mean, you have much more experience than I do, or would understand. Maybe you could talk a little bit about that. Yeah,
it's funny because it's not understanding what it takes to grow. These businesses, you run into common challenges. It's the obvious. You got to spend on marketing. You have to keep your foot on the accelerator. But it's really easy to lose that discipline when you get busy with the business. And so if you don't have your operations in order, you'll steal from your proactive marketing and networking activities that generate leads. And that's often what we've seen when, folks kind of take their foot off the accelerator. Guess what happens? Growth slows. So it's funny, you got to keep the engine cranking there, but you also have to make sure you're investing on quality staff, have your systems and processes dialed in so that you can continue that growth trajectory rather than leveling off. So I'd say that's probably the biggest hurdle is that. The others is, it's in an environment where you're not seeing as much home sales. So, it is one of those where you have to make sure that if you're doing good management, you can get business from competitors that are not doing an effective job or individuals who are trying to do it themselves. That's actually been our biggest lead source because it's becoming more and more competitive and they're not able to keep up with the marketing needs to generate income and the pricing demands. So even though maybe it's slowed up on some of the real estate transactions, we found more of the do-it-yourselfers are looking for help because they realize they're maybe in over their head.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And are most of your franchisees, Lukas, are they able to work from home or do they need a storefront? Or it sounds like this is something you could do from your home, right?
It is. I think almost all of our locations start out kind of from the home base.
Yeah.
And you get a team, it makes a lot more sense to have an office. And it's not your traditional retail storefront. So you don't have to be on Main Street. It is more about functionally for the team, storage. And you think about it, it's also access to support your properties. Right. So you want to be quickly to major arteries to be able to get around town because your team will be sometimes in properties multiple times a week. And so you have to be really thoughtful of where that location is so that the team can launch from there and support the homeowners.
Yeah, I think that's well said. It sounds like, too, Lukas, that, no experience is really required, to get into a SkyRun vacation rental. When you're meeting with, let's say, a prospective franchisee, what's important to you when you're meeting with them? Are there any types of characteristics or traits that you're looking for before you say this person would be a good match?
You hit it on the head first. No industry experience. Like most franchises, really, we take in
the beauty of franchising
and really teach them the business.
Right.
It's interesting because I hate to say, determination, hard work, those are the table stakes. You expect someone who's really motivated. And you know this, you've done this, been around long. Yeah. If everyone say starting your own business is easy, run, because they're lying to you. It could be one of the hardest things you ever do, but the most rewarding.
It's true.
But the true attributes we look for in successful entrepreneurs is adaptability, because things change and you have to be able to adjust. We talked about that drive because it's really important. These businesses, we're a low-cost franchise, but it can be significant what these do. And so we want individuals not to be, ultimately complacent and happy with, modest returns. We want individuals to generate big businesses.
Sure.
But the other is, the other two distinct skill sets is there's a outgoing element and kind of service mindset. So you have your guest facing and you have your sales role. And then you have your organization side, like someone who's very detail oriented. And most people don't have both of those. So if they have the outgoing sales side, we say hire your weakness, hire the organization. If you have the organization, hire the, more of the outgoing. So those are the two skill sets that we look for. And, we're very open and frank with individuals about saying, okay, this is what you should be looking for your first hire to complement yourself.
Right. Yeah, I think that's great. And I'm thinking about, so how does the training, Lukas, work then? Once you decide, you like them, they like you, and they want to come on board as a franchisee, do they come to corporate? Is there online training? How does that work?
Yeah, in the interest of not putting everyone to sleep here, I could talk 20 minutes on our training because it's pretty robust. You're talking over a 6-month window. We do have, kind of preliminary work before individuals come to Denver for what we call, Franchise Training 1.
Okay.
But once you go through Franchise Training 1, you're live. You're starting to market. We then we link them up with a business development trainer, and they get one-on-one coaching for 12 weeks. Then they go into Training 2 after they get some properties under their belt. And then as they have properties, we add a revenue management training. So they're meeting with our team weekly, if not more frequently. We have an onboarding specialist dedicated to them. And then usually in about that 6 months window, they graduate to then kind of the more mature business coaching support. They can obviously always call and reach out to the team, but the scheduled weekly kind of cadence of training and learning kind of tapers off, and they graduate into, more of traditional coaching.
Yeah, and I think that's important. Are there a lot of federal and statewide regulations that kind of impact the business? You would know that much better than I would, Lukas.
Yeah, it's not federal or state. It's the usual local municipalities.
Oh, really? Wow.
It's really interesting because, we're going through as a country kind of this housing crisis, right? It's affordability. And so we're finding in areas where they're maybe putting caps on the number of licenses available for short-term rentals. The other regulations, they want to make sure that you register so that they can collect the proper tax because they're economic creatures in the local municipality.
Right.
But so regulations do have some of those limitations, but regulations are also positive. We're seeing where there's nuisance violations, or you have to be able to respond in a timely manner, or live certain distance from the property, which that helps us as for professional managers, because we're doing all those things anyways. Yeah. And so we have found that's also been I don't say a catalyst, but that's made it a little more imposing for the do-it-yourselfer to do it. And, it's important that there is kind of these basic standards because, you're dealing with people's homes, their biggest asset, and you're in neighborhoods with people living. And so to us, we really do encourage regulations thoughtfully. not ill-conceived and maybe artificial ceilings.
Right.
But we do like some of those other regulations that really do make sure that things are being managed professionally.
Yeah. No, I think that's important too, Lucas. Here's an interesting question for you. What's been one of the most interesting things that's happened to you since being part of SkyRun Vacation Rentals? I know you probably have hundreds of different stories, and it's a tough question to just ask on the spot. But does anything like stand out over the years? Like, have you had like these aha moments, or you say, "Wow, that's incredible"? Has that happened to you?
Oh, geez, yeah. And you're dealing with, we have had over 600,000 previous guests.
Right, that's what I mean. It's hard to narrow it down.
Some colorful things that we have. But, no, I think for me, it's been the evolution of our organization. And we were homegrown, and we had our own technology. And as our industry has evolved, there's been some amazing off-the-shelf solutions. And they don't address 100% of our needs. And we just recently pivoted to kind of graduate away from our own homegrown solution to an off-the-shelf, but we still augment it with our own communications, our own website and things tied. And that's a big deal because it's just of our history. We were founded on our own technology. And so, credit to the courage to the company to do what was right, not only in the near term and the long term. And that's hard, right? Because we have a lot of history built into it. Right. Our co-founder who built it, unfortunately passed away about 3 years ago. And so there was some emotional components too.
Sure. I get
because that was Barry's baby that he had built.
Yeah.
But that baby had helped fueled us to be an industry leader, and we wouldn't be in the place to make that strategic pivot without that tool. Yeah. So it's kind of to have to look through that lens.
Sure.
But as you can imagine, there was layers to that decision, but it was 100% the right direction, and gives still a proprietary element to an advantage to our franchisees, but it's not our core focus. We're strategic with how we support technology, and so that, I will say that epiphany, but that evolution was kind of the biggest aha over the last couple of years. Yeah.
No, I think that's a great response. What advice, Lucas, would you give to our listeners? We call them aspiring franchipreneurs. Most of them, from what we've learned after all these years, is they're kind of like new to franchising, and so they're exploring franchising. And now I recently learned that I think it's up to the U.S. is up to like 4,000 different systems. So I think it's a little bit of information overload in the beginning for some of these individuals, and like, oh my God, where do I begin? From everything you've learned up to this point, what advice would you give to our listeners then in their quest to buy a franchise?
I think it's key is understanding what your objectives are. There are, as you just nailed, so many franchises. There's a lot of great concepts. Yeah. And understand what your objectives are going into it. Right. And then as you go through discovery, how do they fit your objectives? It's really easy to get enamored with the hot new fad or something. Right. Does it really serve what your objectives are? And I always counsel, that's why when we go through the discovery, we're here to help individuals make an informed decision. And so ours is, what are your objectives? What are you trying to accomplish? Right. And is that a fit for us? Yeah. And then the other is make sure you know the team and the people on the other side of it. Because you're going to be married to them for a 5-10 year term. Right. And the agreements do a great job of defining things, but how are they going to respond to issues or any sort of tension? And so when you're doing validation talk, how do they work with you? How do they work through challenges? How do they own their mistakes? And so you're not only scrutinizing the concept, you're scrutinizing who you're working with. So that would be my counsel.
Yeah, no, I think that's great advice, Lucas, because franchising is certainly like a means to an end, as you mentioned. It's just what do you want to accomplish? What are your goals? Last question is, because you're the CEO of the company, so I can ask you this. I mean, where do you see SkyRun Vacation Rentals, if you can look into a crystal ball, whether it's 1 year or 3 years or 5 years, Lucas, where do you see the organization?
So, we have aspirations. We're not going to be the largest in the space. That's not our goal. We want to be the best and make an imprint on this space. Yeah. And so, we're very thoughtful on how we grow and the franchisees we bring on. And you've been around the block enough to know it's like there's a lot of great concepts, but that biggest X factor is the quality of the franchise community,
right.
and how they share and build. And if you have a group like that, that's when you can move mountains. And so we take a lot of pride that we've over doubled in the last 3 years, and our customer satisfaction scores are slightly up from where we were. We do provide best in industry kind of guest experiences. And so we want to grow, but we want to grow effectively where we can still make a positive influence on the industry. So as I look 5 years, I do think we'll probably be, double our size here at least. But again, we'll be one of the larger players in the space, but we don't have those aspirations about being the largest, because it's about kind of quality and something that's really sustainable. So and I know that's not as tangible, because I always laugh. Everyone asks that, what are your measurables? I'm like, we have those targets.
Right.
But guess what? We don't have any arbitrary drive that has to be that. It has to look and feel and be something, because there is a legacy play. This industry, what we do is provide great, best in industry training, best in industry kind of experiences. Yeah. And we want to continue that. And I think we can do that on a larger scale, but we're not going to compromise that to grow.
I get it. Yeah, I think that's well said. What's the best way, Lukas, for our listeners to get more information on SkyRun Vacation Rentals? Of course, as the franchise opportunity, but maybe even the service itself. I mean, are there any websites you can point our listeners to?
Easiest way is skyrun.com.
Oh, that's easy enough.
Yep.
And all the information's right there. And I can't tell you how much I've enjoyed talking to you, and I'd really like to invite you back, Lukas, over the next year or two as you continue to grow, because I've been studying what you do, and I think this is very fascinating. So I would love to have you back on the show.
Would love to. I appreciate you having us on.
This has been my pleasure, Lukas, and we'll be right back with more franchise interviews. Coming up in our next segment, we will be playing a clip from our Great Quotes in Franchising podcast right here on Franchise Interviews.
Franchise Interviews, an up-close, behind-the-scenes look at franchising and entrepreneurship.
Through our website, franchiseinterviews.com, where you can hear and read interviews as well as get tips from some of the most successful sources in franchising.
And our weekly franchise radio show, where each week you get to hear a new interview with franchisors, franchisees, franchise authors, experts, and attorneys. And don't forget to listen to our podcast, Great Quotes in Franchising. For more information, go to franchiseinterviews.com or call us at 610-905-2919.
That's 610-905-2919.
Hi, everyone. This is Marty McDermott from Franchise Interviews, and welcome to another edition of Great Quotes in Franchising, where each podcast you get to hear a great quote in franchising. Franchise Interviews has been hosting franchise interviews for almost 6 years now, and almost 300 shows, and during that time we've had some incredible quotes on our show. Today you're going to get to hear from Art Collet, who is the president of Alpha Graphics, and Art has a wonderful quote. He says that franchising is one of the greatest inventions for small business, and he kind of expands why, so here we go.
Fantastic program. I mean, when I saw it, I said I thought this was very exciting for you guys, and it's going to be interesting to watch. I mean, it sounds like your franchise partners are certainly going to appreciate something like this, and I guess that's the benefit of getting into franchising as well, isn't it, Art? Is to have a program like this, a very strong program that the franchisees can really benefit from.
Yeah, I'll tell you, Marty, you said something earlier, I was saying earlier about, that nearly 10 years of restaurant ownership. Mm-hmm. There were months, Marty, and we were not a franchise. There were months, Marty, where I begged for somebody to send a royalty check to. Because I thought, man, if somebody could bring me some turnkey marketing programs, if somebody could bring me some training solutions that were already ready to go for the employees and how to hire them and who's the right person, how to recruit them, if somebody could bring me a process for creating more traffic at my restaurant or operational workflow and checklist, Marty, I believe, and I've had people, great people like, Bud Hadfield, and I can, go down the list of just the names of people that have, are in my cell phone that I can call anytime. I mean, John Luther over at Duncan Brands and Jim Amos, who, led mailboxes, et cetera, and all these names. I think I'm honored to be on your show today, just knowing those guys.
Thank you.
People like that are people that you've interviewed. But, franchising, I believe, is the greatest invention for small business ownership.
Yeah.
Because franchising doesn't change the fact that you're still a small business owner.
Exactly.
All franchising should do, my job as president of Alpha Graphics is to take people who have decided they want to be a small business owner and they want to do it in this arena of providing visual communication solutions, whether that's document solutions or marketing solutions. But my job as president of Alpha Graphics is just simply to take the hurdles that may be 6 feet high if you're out there on your own trying to do it yourself, and let's take them down to 6 inches. The hurdles are still there. You're still going to have employee issues. You're still going to have operational issues. You still need to have somebody. You're still going to deal with your financials in your business. And I think sometimes prospective franchisees forget that.
Yes.
They forget that they're still. They may possibly think the franchisor is going to take those problems away. And there are some that we do remove off the table, but for the most part, they're all still there. We just have systems and approach and coaching and support to help you manage that. And now it's a little speed bump in the road in the road instead of climbing Mount Kilimanjaro.
Thanks everyone for listening, and we'll see you again soon with another edition of Great Quotes in Franchising by Franchise Interviews. Take care, everyone.
Franchise Interviews. From Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia, you're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews.